So we continue factoring with our trinomials, but instead of using this technique called guess and check, we're going to use someone called split the middle term. And the only reason why we would pull out split the middle term is when someone like this person shows up here, an 8. So if we've got someone who's in front of that x squared, you might choose to do split the middle term. Now, at the same time, the guess and check technique still works. So we'll show you both of them here today, and then you can practice them and kind of figure out which one you like a little bit better. So, split the middle term. The way this works out is we're going to focus on multiplying the first term and the last term together. So when we multiply, we get a negative 8. And then we're going to focus in on that it needs to add to that middle term. So it needs to add to get us to just get a 2. So a lot like our factoring, like we saw before, it's coming up with, hey, what can multiply to this, but combine together to get me this? So negative 8. Again, don't focus on the signs right now. 8 times 1. No, that won't give me a 2. 8 minus 1, 8 plus 1. 4 times 2. Okay, yeah, 4 times 2. Well, not 4 plus 2, but I can do a 4 minus 2. So if I do a 4 and then a minus 2, let's check this out. If you multiply 4 and negative 2 together, yeah, we get negative 8. And again, if I combine 4 and negative 2, I also get a positive 2. So I've got a winner that's here. So it's called split the middle term for a reason, because we are going to take the middle term and we're going to split it up. So I've got an 8x squared. We're just going to bring you along for the ride. First term, not the middle term. The 2x. Okay, so this is where we're going to rewrite it coming up with our two numbers that we've used. So we're going to say a plus 4x and a minus 2x. Again, if we combine them together, we get back to our 2x, so it's all legit. And then we've got a minus 1. So what we do is a factoring technique that's called grouping. And in grouping, we focus on the first two terms and then the last two terms. We're just going to take out a greatest common factor. So we're relying on a lot of previous knowledge here, which is why some students like the grouping, the split the middle term technique, because it's, oh, I remember you. Oh, I remember you. So greatest common factor here, 4x. What can we multiply 4x to get to the 8x squared? Well, 4 times 2 gives me the 8, and x times x. So that's a 2x. And what do you multiply 4x to get to 4x? Well, just a 1. Let's try the other piece out here. Greatest common factor. Well, there really isn't one. So that's when we use the number 1. The only thing that's in common there is a 1. Now, the thing though is, I'm actually not going to use a 1. I'm going to use a negative 1. And the reason why is because I need who's inside the parentheses to match up. So watch what happens here. What do you multiply negative 1 to get to negative 2x? Well, that's a positive 2x. What do you multiply a negative 1 by to get to a negative 1? Well, that's a positive 1. And they matched. Okay, so typically we'd pull the 1 out, and then you would see, oh, I have a negative 2x and a negative 1. They've got to match up, so that tells you, wait, I got to go back. I've got to pull out a negative that's there. So it's something to watch for. It's something that will show up from time to time, but you just kind of need to be aware of it. So now we're ready to get to our answer. And what we end up doing is we use the outside people, so 4x minus 1, times the match. In other words, who was inside the parentheses. And we're done and we got it. So, like I said, it's a nice technique, but it takes a little bit longer. If we were using the guess and check technique, well, let's go back to the original problem. 8x squared plus 2x and then minus 1. Using the guess and check technique, what we would do is we'd throw down our two sets of parentheses, and we would have to guess and have to check. So the first term is an 8x squared. So I could be like, well, 8x times x gives me 8x squared. And then I need to multiply together to get to the 1. More specifically, the negative 1. So, well, the only numbers that multiply are going to be 1. And someone's going to need to be positive and someone's going to need to be negative. And what I'm going to have to do here is start checking. So that's a 1x. That's a negative 8x. When I combine those together, I don't get the 2x. Okay. So maybe we can flip the numbers around. Well, they're both 1s, so flipping around is not going to happen here. Let's come up with different numbers besides the 8. Well, we got to break out the eraser. I could use someone like a 4x and a 2x. And now I can see that 1 times 2x is a 2x. I can see a 4x times a negative 1 is a negative 4x. Now when I combine that, gives me a negative 2x. Now, ooh, that means we're warm. Because I got the right number, just not the right sign. So what that tells me to do is, like before, if you get the right number, but the wrong sign, all I have to do is flip my positives and my negatives around. Because that'll make a negative 2x. That'll make a positive 4x. 4x times 2x is still 8x squared. Negative 1 times 1 is still a negative 1. And now when we combine them, we got it. So there it is. 4x minus 1 times 2x plus 1. And again, when we verify, that's exactly what we had over here. So there's definitely more structure with split the middle term. It takes longer. But for some students, that's the path they need to go down. Let's try one more here. Let's go after, go 10x squared minus 19x plus 6. And this is where guess and check's not really going to be your friend. Because with the 10, I got to try a 5 and a 2. And then I got to flip them around. And with the 6, I could try a 2 and a 3 and then flip them around. Maybe it's a 6 and 1, flip them around. Maybe go back to the 10, it's a 10 and 1 that's there. So when there's a lot more options, that's when split the middle term is a little bit better. But even then, like, check this out. Split the middle term, we're going to multiply. So 10 times 6 is 60. I need to add to get to that negative 19. So now I'm stuck with, man, 60. 10 times 6? That's 60, but that doesn't give me the 19. 2 and 30? No. Wow. 15 and 4. 15 and 4. Negative 15 and negative 4. That gives me a positive 6 and a yeah. So this is like where you're like, well, I wouldn't have saw that. Well, then maybe guess and check would have been better, because at least you're using 5 and 2. You're using smaller numbers. So again, it's just kind of your routine that's there. But hey, let's go through it, split the middle term. Let's get this one kind of knocked out so you can see one more time in action. And then you can kind of make those decisions of what you would like to end up doing as you move forward with them. Sorry, those arrows are really bothering me down there. All right, here we go. We got it back there. All right, so split the middle term here. We've got our numbers. So that means I've got a 10x squared. And a lot of students are like, well, how do I know to put the 15? It doesn't make a difference. The negative 15 first or the negative 4x. That's won't have any impact on it. So we're going to grouping here. There we go. So creates common factor is a 5x. So we're going to multiply by a 2x that's there, because 5 times 2 is 10. X times x is x squared. And then 5x times 3. That gets me to 15x. Now remember, I need a 2x minus 3 inside the parentheses for grouping to work. So what I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to take out a negative 2. I knew it's a 2. That's the greatest common factor. But I didn't know whether to do positive or negative. The key is I knew I needed a positive 2x. Well, so there we go. Negative 2 times a 2x is a negative 4x. And negative 2 times a negative 3. Now I've got my match. And there we are. We've got ourselves our answer that's here. Remember the outsides? 5x minus 2. And 2x minus 3. And we're good to go. If we were going to do some guess and check here, we go back to the original problem. The 10x squared minus 19x plus 6. Again, it's it's guessing and checking that's there. So you're dropping your parentheses down. Again, I can see the answer. And again, 5 and 2 is a likely suspect, but even then, it's the 5x and the 2x, and then the 6. Well, we probably would do a 2 and a 3 that's there, because that's the first thing that would come to mind. Then we'd see 4x, 15x, it'd be like 19x. But wait, we want negative. So, oh my goodness, just switch the signs. So, 5x minus 2, all right, 2x minus 3. And you can see it got us there. At the same time, we had some helpful hints there. But it just shows you the guess and check. You could guess right and be done much faster. You could guess wrong and guess wrong and guess wrong, and it could take a lot longer. Smaller numbers with the guess and check, but more mental math that you're going to be using. So that's where you just got to define is what type of student are you? Do you need the more structured approach? It's going to take a little bit longer, but it's going to get you there. Or are you more like, hey, let me guess, let me check, let me move on. All right, we'll be working more of this tomorrow.